All right. Hello, everyone. I believe we are live right now and ready to get started. Let me get my windows here. I got about 50 windows up I need to keep track of. Hi, how y'all doing today? My name is Matt Ulason with Linux Academy, and in case this is your first time here, welcome. But what we do is every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, we're doing a new thing in which we are live streaming, doing something new on Google Cloud, and it has a little twist of what we're doing is what you are suggesting for us. So basically, how it works is through our various communication channels, people say, I want to see something demonstrated, and then I go do it. And it also has an added benefit of not only do we learn something new, we also learn how to learn something new, which I think is as important, maybe even a little bit more important than just simply seeing something done live, which is cool. But learning how to learn is really a important skill set that anyone can really benefit from. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. First of all, I got to mention that if you are currently or at least thinking about being a subscriber to Linux Academy, we are having a ridiculous sale going on in which you can basically get a half price subscription with our annual plan of $2.99 per year, which is basically half the rate of the monthly plan once you break it down month by month. And that actually applies to current monthly and annual subscribers as well. And you're going to be grandfathered in as long as you renew every year after that. So if you are either currently a Linux Academy subscriber or thinking about it, you can basically get it for half price right now. So that's pretty cool. Definitely want to jump on that. Anyway, welcome to today's Google Cloud demo. Like I said, what we do is every week we demonstrate something of your choosing. And today we had a suggestion from Nico in our Linux Academy community Slack channel, and he wanted to see how to do continuous deployment with the Cloud Build product that was just recently announced on at Google Next 2018 last month. Sporting the shirt right here, and that's what we're going to do today. So, Nico, hopefully you're on today. This one is for you. Also, be aware that again, what we do each week is dependent on your suggestions. So if there is something you would like to see me demonstrate in a 45-ish minute live demo, please be aware of those time constraints. Go ahead and either mention it in chat. If you're watching this on the recording afterwards, no longer live, go ahead and mention it in the comments. And you can also go to our Linux Academy community Slack channel, go to the Google Cloud channel in that Slack channel, and suggest it in there. I look at those very closely, and I have kind of a list of other suggestions people have wanted to do, so it just kind of depends on when we get around to it. Oh, also, I got to share this with you because this is awesome. So when you pass one of the Google Cloud certifications, they send you free stuff. And back in early July, I passed the data engineer exam, which we have a course out for that now as well. And I had a choice of different swag items, and I chose a kind of a pullover jacket, really nice North Face one, and it literally came in 10 minutes before the live demo started today. So this is sitting on my doorstep about 10 minutes ago. It's a nice North Face brand, has like a little Google Cloud Data Engineer patch on there. And if you get certified on Google Cloud, which we have courses for all of them, you can get free stuff too. They have like backpacks, laptop sleeves, blankets, hoodies. It's pretty cool stuff. So get certified, get free stuff, pretty fun stuff. Okay, so we've actually had a lot of recommendations of going over some sort of continuous deployment on Google Cloud, and Cloud Build is really just kind of a small part of that. And what I typically do is I typically start from kind of a 10,000 foot view for the kind of cliche terms of what the whole continuous delivery, deployment, whatever name you want to call it, what that's all about, and where some of these solutions come into play, and also more importantly, how to get started, because there is just a ton of different little rabbit holes you can go down there, and just knowing where to start, especially if you're coming from a beginner's perspective, is just frankly really kind of intimidating. Now, I do have in the video description beneath, whether you're live or watching on recording, a whole bunch of links that I found really helpful for just kind of a start here perspective of there's a whole ton of stuff here. Where on earth do I get started? I'm just going to kind of go over some of those links here. If you're interested in continuous delivery on Google Cloud and just don't really know where to start, how to get started, this link here, again, it's in the YouTube description, is a great start here perspective. It talks about how to get started with Cloud Build, Circle CI, CodeFresh, Jenkins, very popular product, and a whole bunch of other products as well. Some other kind of top-level perspectives of how the whole continuous deployment pipeline works on Google Cloud. We're going to be focusing specifically on the cloud build portion today, in which we're going to automate building our containers. But there's other components in the chain where you automatically deploy them to Container Engine or other locations as well. And some other good links of how continuous delivery works on Google Cloud, why it's important. Basically do everything harder, faster, better, stronger, automated, less risk of manual mistakes, and other good stuff like that. And again, since we're in a 45-minute live stream, we're going to go kind of touching lightly on some of these topics. If you want to do a deep dive about how Kubernetes works or how a full CI/CD pipeline works or how Jenkins works, we have very, very in-depth courses on Linux Academy. We have 45 minutes, so we're going to kind of have to go a little bit picking and choosing what we're talking about from there. So what we're going to cover, also, before I do that, I also have what I'm kind of referring to as a superscript that I use for automating a lot of this demo setup, and that link is also in the YouTube description. It's just a script file I have sitting in a public cloud storage bucket, and this is really kind of all my notes and all my steps all in one place for you to be able to do this on your own. If you've taken our Cloud Architect Part 1 course, there was a bookshelf application that we use for our Kubernetes engine demos. It's the exact same application with a few changes specifically for Cloud Build, and I have a whole bunch of commented out comments of how to do some of the Cloud Build stuff, how to push it to your cloud source repository for doing stuff like automatic build triggers, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. So definitely check out those links in the live stream video description just for a little bit more in-depth info of how to find out some more information on your own. So let's jump into Cloud Build itself. So Cloud Build is a little bit of a repackaging or a little bit of restructuring of the existing container registry service, which is still on there. And also, I believe Google Cloud had a container builder service as well. So it's not 100% new, but it's kind of restructured with some new features added. And that's what we're going to go over today. And what Cloud Build does, if I can find my right chart, is it allows you to take some sort of a source repository like a GitHub repo or a Google Cloud source repository or wherever else, and it's able to let you automatically package that code into some sort of a container and push it to container registry all automatically. And kind of how the basic behind-the-scene process works is that when you kick off a Cloud Build job, it pushes your code into a cloud storage bucket, and then some basically managed virtual machines both package that code into either Docker format, Go format, and there's some other formats as well. And it also uploads it into a container registry image all in one step. So there's a couple manual steps that's all automated within a single step itself. Now, it doesn't automatically deploy your container images to Kubernetes Engine or other services. You require other services for that, such as Spinnaker, which we might cover in another live demo session, maybe within the next couple weeks. But we're going to focus specifically on the automation of packaging and sending your source code into Container Engine as kind of the first step of the automated continuous delivery process. And kind of what we're going to do is here as follows. We're going to have some source code we're going to use. And again, if you've taken the Architect Part 1 course, it's going to be the exact same source code we use for the bookshelf application. And we're going to call on Cloud Build to both automatically package it into a Docker container and then also simultaneously push it up into our container registry. Now, if you went through the course, you would know that there are two separate steps from this if we're doing it the manual way. And since you're using your local machine, it kind of takes a few minutes to do that because it's doing a lot on the local machine itself. Cloud Build automates that, takes it off your local machine, and does the heavy lifting for you, and makes everything automatic. And what's really cool about it is you can do it manually, but you can also set it up where whenever you publish new code to your repository, you don't have to do anything, but Cloud Build will see those changes and automatically create a new package image for you. So all you gotta do is work on your code, and Cloud Build's just gonna do all the packaging and pushing automatically for, with whatever parameters you give it. And that kind of goes into the whole automated delivery process because it's automatic and you're not manually doing stuff yourself, which means less work for you to do and also less chances of making some sort of a mistake. And then what Cloud Build is going to do is going to push it out to container registry. We're going to do some manual deployments to Kubernetes Engine just for demonstration purposes, not the main focus, but just want to demonstrate that. When you're using Cloud Build, you can use either a direct call via command line, this gcloud build submit, and then basically telling it to package and push an image out to container registry. And you can also call on a config file in YAML format, which we will also go through, that gives you a lot more customization of how your packaging process works. Now, before I jump into it, there's a ton of information here. What I would recommend for a deeper dive, typically what I do for the learning process when I'm learning a really big new topic with a whole ton of stuff, is I like to go through the documentation. Here's the Cloud Build documentation, and I always like just getting started with the quick start. Now, this quick start is great for a going through the motions process for a super simple example of what to do. It doesn't give you really good in-depth knowledge, but it does at least get you familiar with the steps of, okay, how do these different methods of calling on Cloud Build work? It takes basically like a very simple hello world quick start script. It does the direct call via command line, and also talks about how to use a config file in YAML format, and then you can kind of go from there. So kind of learning process is start with something super simple, and then kind of go down little rabbit holes from there. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our Bookshelf application container engine, or it's Kubernetes engine now, source repo, and we're going to package that with Cloud Build. And kind of how the process works, I have a copy of my superscript here that, again, is in the video description. We've already done all the steps from 4 all the way down to, I believe right here, we have a Kubernetes cluster up and running right now. We haven't actually packaged our source code, so that's where we're going to actually go ahead and pick up for demonstration purposes. Let me get that out of here. We're going to be working from our Cloud Shell session. We are already within our source code here. And we also have that info cloned to our Google Cloud Source repository, just for reference here as well. And if you go through that superscript, this will automatically do the exact same stuff on your end. So you can go ahead and pretty much just kind of pick up where we are picking up here as well. And this is the source code that we are going to package up with Cloud Build and then push into a container repository. So how it works is it's actually pretty simple. You just call on the Cloud Build service, and you within the source code location that you're in, which we're in right now with our container directory or container engine directory. For using Docker, you have to have a Docker file, which we already have supplied. And all I need to do is call on the Cloud Build command to go ahead and package it up, and simultaneously package it, push it into a staging cloud storage location, and then it will package and then push into your container registry from there. Now, I got the commands off in my superscript that we can use for copying and pasting, and these same steps are in the quick start as well. Just sub in the actual container registry you're going to be using. And that command is going to be basically gcloud builds. Builds is the cloud builder. Submit. We're tagging it as a Docker file, and this is going to be the container registry location we're going to. The dev shell project ID is a variable that automatically resolves to whatever your current project is right there. And it's going to be using our source location here as well. Now, what this is going to do is it's very hands-off from this point. What it's doing is it's taking my code, it's pushing it into a staging cloud storage location, which we'll take a look at when it's done. And then once it's in there, it's going to use manage VMs that, again, we don't have to do anything with. And it's going to basically take that code and package it in Docker format. And it's then going to push that Docker image into our container registry. And that's just going to take a couple minutes, and it's very automatic and hands-off, which is pretty darn nice. Kind of goes into the whole automated delivery process. Now, this is going to take a minute, so let's just kind of sit tight here. Grab a cup of coffee if you want to as well. It may take about a minute or two. While we're waiting, just out of curiosity, where is everyone from today? And also, what is something new that you have either learned or in the process of learning this week? For myself, I'm in the Kansas City area, so right smack dab in the middle of the United States. And I've been learning Cloud Build this week, obviously because I'm doing this, and just really kind of digging into all the little odds and ends with it and how it integrates with the different Google Cloud products like Kubernetes Engine, App Engine. And I'm hoping to dive in a little bit further with maybe a follow-up demo within the next week or so as well. Also, while we're waiting, again, since what I do is dependent on what you recommend, let me know what you want to see next week. Now, there's a couple choices we want to do. I'm thinking about doing... Where do we go from here? I had a window up with a couple different choices on it, and I am not finding it right now. Let me ask this. So, couple choices for next week. We can take our Cloud Build process here and kind of go to the next step of using maybe Spinnaker, of not only automating the process of creating images, but also automating the process of deploying those images into Kubernetes Engine. Or we could do maybe a more beginner-friendly topic next week. This is really kind of advanced. So if you're an absolute beginner, you may be a little bit lost today. Or maybe we can also work with some App Engine continuous delivery processes as well, which also use Cloud Build, but I may also use some services such as Circle CI. We had some suggestions for that, and some other ones as well. If there's anything particular you'd want to see, let me know in chat. Also, if you're watching this on the recording afterwards, let me know in the comments there, and we'll definitely collect them, and we may end up doing it. Okay, our Cloud Build process has completed. It was a success, which is always a good sign to see. If we go back to our Cloud Build web console listings, underneath Tools, we can see that we had a version of our package packaged. This is what the Cloud Build process end result looks like. I can rebuild it if I want to. I can take a look at the source code on my local machine, download it into a compressed file if I want to as well. These are auto logs, and if something went wrong, you can go into here and see what went wrong. You can also reverse the order here if you want to as well. Just kind of give you a full process of what everything looks like. And if we go into our container registry, which is where Cloud Build ended up depositing everything, we have our bookshelf image, and we have the latest version right here, and that is when I did the gcloud build submit. This location right here was the container registry location right here. So I basically told Cloud Build to take my source code in this directory, stick it into a cloud storage bucket, package it in Docker format, and then push it out into container registry. Pretty easy peasy. Cool. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of modification to our source code here. And we're going to see then how to do another Cloud Build submission using not just a direct call, but instead pointing to a configuration file, which gives you a lot more customization if you want to. And we're going to go ahead and demonstrate that here in just a second. The base command, though, is going to be gcloud build submit. Instead of giving the full container registry path here, you're going to call on your YAML file. And this is the YAML file that we're going to be using here as well. And again, this is all going to be available within some of our YouTube links as well. So I'm going to make a few changes to our source code here. Nothing really too crazy. Go ahead and using the Cloud Shell code editor, scroll down to our HTML templates. We'll go to our list one here. And what we're going to do is we have a setting that says add book. Actually, just going to say books. And I'm just going to change it to say something different. Books are fun. And there's a button that says add book. I'm just going to basically change it to something a little bit funny. So we change our source code here. Now in a production environment, of course, you would have your code changes, some changes made, you've updated some of your code. You would want to deploy a new cloud build into a new version of your container registry as well. So let's just go ahead and do that now. The process is mostly the same. However, this time we are not going to call on it directly, but rather we're going to call on our cloud build configuration file, which I have a copy sitting in here right now. It is a configuration file that tells the cloud build process how to do basically exactly the same thing we did before. And the command to do that will be gcloud build submit. We're going to point to a configuration file, and we'll point to our config file in YAML format, and with a period at the end designating to do it from this location. And because my short-term memory is bad, I have the command off to the side. We'll just copy and paste from there. So now what Cloud Build is doing, again, I'm completely done with the manual process on my end. It is taking that updated code, it is pushing it out to a cloud storage bucket, it is taking that cloud storage bucket information, and it's packaging into Docker format, and there's other formats you can package in as well. I believe Go is one of the formats you can do, and there's some other formats as well. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. And it's then pushing out a new version of that code out into container registry. Again, the load is off my machine. I don't have to do anything from my end. I can't fat finger a command. It's pretty much just waiting all over again. While that is running in the background, let's kind of poke around a little bit more to see how some of the behind-the-scene process works. If we go to our cloud storage location, I believe this is the staging bucket it's using. See, I may have too many buckets here, so I might be a little bit looking around. Okay, I believe this is our source code here. And these is the source code that's pushing from my Cloud Shell session into cloud storage. Cloud Build's then taking it, doing the whole Docker packing process, and then sticking it within container registry from there. That's probably in process right now. How are we looking here? That's still in process there. Mark comments, I'm consistently impressed with how much better Google Cloud's control panel is than AWS and Azure. Yeah, I agree. I just find it really easy to get around. I like the format with almost everything within the left menu, so I'm definitely in agreement with you on that. That is just about finished. And when that's done, I'm going to go ahead and deploy. I probably forgot on this first step. I'm going to go ahead and quickly deploy out a second version of our app on Kubernetes Engine itself, which at the time is currently a manual process. We're not automating that, but I want to see how the update process works once we automatically trigger Cloud Build for our third run through and see what that looks like. We should be done here in just about a minute. But you can see there's a lot going on that I don't have to mess with because Cloud Build's managing that for me. And the less I have to do because I'm lazy, the better. Now, while we're waiting, I know I'm throwing in a ton of information. Again, there's a ton of material to cover just really based on time. If there's anything you want to see me explain a little bit better, I think we're running pretty good on time. Go ahead and mention it in the chat, and I'll go ahead and circle back and make sure I answer your question as well. Okay, our second Cloud Build was a success with our updated code. If we go into the Cloud Build setting, we have our second push out that started 3 minutes ago. Container registry info here. If we go to container registry itself, we have our image repository here. And we have our latest version here as well. Again, automated, didn't have to do anything with it. It's all there waiting for me. Let's just go ahead for demonstration purposes, quickly deploy this application just so we can see what it looks like. Let me bring up my superscript here real fast. And I need to quickly... All I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that image and deploy it. This will take me just a moment to do that. Getting credentials for the bookshelf cluster. Going to go ahead and apply it via our YAML file for the actual it's a replication controller deployment. And we're going to call on Kubernetes commands to get the info on our pods. And again, if you're not familiar with Kubernetes, I'm going to be pretty much speaking Greek right now, but what I'm doing right now is we just deployed the package source code package from our container registry into an actual live application itself on Google Kubernetes Engine, and I already deployed the cluster before the demo started because it takes a few minutes for it to do that. And we're waiting about 30 seconds for that service to be up and running, and we'll see if it actually works. Okay, our pods are running, and let me go ahead and get the front-end IP address for that app. Now, if you do want to learn more about Kubernetes and Kubernetes Engine itself, we're not really going deep dive into it today. Again, there's a lot of information there. We do cover it briefly in our Google Cloud Architect Part 1 course. Also, our new Google Cloud Engineer course that Ben Lambert it's either finished or it's just about finished in early access. He goes over Kubernetes Engine. And we're also refreshing our previous Google Cloud Kubernetes Engine deep dive that's being done by Joe Lowry. So we're going to have a lot more information either out now or in the very near future that really goes into a much bigger deep dive of how Kubernetes Engine works. Also, if you want to learn more about Kubernetes, just the service apart from Google Cloud, we have a lot of courses like that, various Kubernetes certifications. So if you want to jump further into that, we have lots of courses going from beginner to advanced with that as well. Just for time purposes, we're just lightly touching on a lot of that today. Okay, this is the external IP address for our web app that we just deployed. Let's see if it actually works. And it does. It had the little code change I did there. Books are fun. Push the button. If I deployed it earlier, it just would have said books and add book. But this is our application up and running right now, which is pulled from container registry into Kubernetes Engine, which I don't actually have listed right here. So let's have a little bit more fun now. So we did a manual process for doing a cloud build demo, which basically just took 2 commands and boiled it down to 1 command. So not really too exciting with that. Where's the sizzle? Where's the fun stuff with this? Well, cloud build can also be set up to automatically create builds without any sort of an input yourself. So far in this demonstration, I've been doing direct calls to the cloud build service. I've also been doing pointing to a configuration file, again, initiated by me. Wouldn't it be cool if whenever you have code updated within your source repository to have Cloud Build automatically see it, automatically go out and grab it, automatically stick it into a cloud storage bucket, automatically, package it and stick it into a container repository, and you don't have to do anything at all. Fortunately, it does that. Let's go check it out. If we go back into Cloud Build, you will see it's currently in beta, but we have a build triggers option here. Basically how it works is you designate a trigger, and when that trigger is met, it will automatically go out and take your code, package it, stick it up into a cloud storage bucket, stick it into a container image repository, getting tongue-tied there, and you don't have to do a darn thing. It pretty much just completely automates the process, which is really where the magic of the whole continuous deployment process comes from. So let's go ahead and create a trigger to automatically do stuff for me. First thing I do is select a source. I'm going to do my cloud source repository. We have our default one already up and running. I'm going to go with most of the defaults here. In a large production environment with multiple people, you want to get a lot more fine-grained, but we're just going to keep it simple from now. But what we're going to do is we are going to, anytime our source repository code is updated, it's going to automatically go out with no input from me, go out and do the whole cloud build process automatically. Let's see, our trigger type is going to be a branch. It's going to be all branches. We don't need any filters here. We're not going to ignore any files. Our build configuration is going to be just a simple Docker file. If I want to go into a more in-depth setup, we could point it to a particular configuration file within the Git repo itself. The Docker file directory is going to be in our container engine subdirectory. I believe that designation is correct. Yes, it is. Docker file name is Dockerfile. See, image name is going to be repo name. We're just going to say bookshelf, and the label is going to be latest. That should be good there, if I did that correctly. There's Docker command preview if you're interested in that. Not worried about timeout. Everything looks good from there. So what we did is we set up an automatic trigger that I'm going to update some of my code again on the Cloud Shell session. I'm then going to go ahead and commit that change into our source repo, or cloud source repository, which it's cloned to. What's going to happen then, again, with no input from me, CloudBuild's going to see that change, and based on my trigger, do what I did 2 times already, and just do it a 3rd time, and just basically automate the entire process for me. Let's see what that looks like. To go back to my Cloud Shell session, let's go ahead and clear my screen. Go back to my code editor. We're going to go list. And we're just going to have a little bit more fun. Get a little bit more goofy. Change my heading. Change my button to say do thing. I don't know. I'm just trying to be creative here. Looks good there. Okay, my code has been changed on my local Cloud Shell session. Next thing I need to do is I need to commit these changes from my Cloud Shell into the actual Cloud Source repository itself. First thing I need to do is I need to first authenticate myself with the source repository, or else it'll squawk at me if I don't do that. And again, this is in the superscript kind of comments in the bottom if you want to follow along on your own. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add all my changes in this directory using git add period. I'm then going to go ahead and commit these changes to my Cloud Source repository. Got to put in a comment. I think comment will suffice. And then I'm going to, for the last step, push those changes out to the source repository. Changes have been pushed. If we go to Cloud Build, it's doing something immediately right away. Hands off. Didn't have to do it on there. While it's doing that, if we go to Cloud Source Repository, it's going to open up in a new tab. Make sure it actually did commit my changes. Container engine, bookshelf, templates, list. I like books, do thing. So my changes did indeed commit. And yeah, it's automating itself. Now this is where the real magic comes in, where if you're in a large environment, you can set your build triggers up in a way where every time your code is changed within whatever parameters you want, CloudBuild is automatically going out and grabbing it, packaging it, pushing out to container registry. And yeah, it's all automatic from there. All you got to do is update your code, and you will have a continuous deployment. It's the term continuous deployment, a continuous automatic deployment of code changes into your container registry, which you can then use to push out to Kubernetes engine, app engine, compute engine, a whole bunch of options from there. Once this is done, we'll go ahead and update our app one more time just to see the final changes, which should wrap our demo up. Are we still packaging it? It's showing the sources time is actually Cloud Source Repository default. That's because we are pulling it from our source repo this time versus the local machine, which is then pushed into a cloud storage bucket. A little bit different format there. And then once that's done, we will finish up by updating our Kubernetes deployment and see what those changes look like. Another good time for a coffee break. Let's see here. That's what we're doing. Okay, cool. This will probably be done in about another minute or so. We'll go ahead and double check that it is good when it's done. While we are waiting, go ahead and let me know in the chat and also within the YouTube comments if you're watching this on recording, if you would rather see kind of a bridge of this process in which we're automating the actual Kubernetes engine deployment process, maybe with Spinnaker, or maybe if you want to see more of a beginner-focused topic next week. I'm kind of thinking maybe alternating between advanced topics like this one, maybe something kind of like more beginner-friendly, back and forth alternating, or if you want to see more continuous deployment stuff in the process. So we're focusing on here. We can next move on to this process after that. For next week, we can kind of go along with that process as well. Again, what I do is depending on what you want me to do. So we'll go ahead and go on from there. Okay, our new image is completed, again, completely automatically. If we go back into our container registry, we should have a third version here, tagged as our latest. Bing, bang, boom, pretty automatic. As our last step, let's go ahead and update our Kubernetes application with the latest version of our image. And to do that, we are going to use a Kubernetes command called rolling update. So it's kube control, rolling update, specify the replication controller. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it here. And it's pulling from the latest version of that image. And basically how that works is going to do a rolling update where it's going to add new versions of pods with the latest image. And then once those are in there, it's going to go ahead and gradually spin the old ones down. And we should have a new version of the app as well. Going to take about another minute or so. And then once that is done, we'll see our new app. And then I think we'll be done from there. Let me know if you have any questions here in the meantime. Unfortunately for live demos, there are always periods where we're just basically waiting for something to complete. Hence why we have live chat, so we can just kind of talk amongst ourselves. I will say that I did have a lot of fun learning about how Cloud Build works, especially when you start getting to the automation perspective of it. I'm actually kind of hoping people suggest using Spinnaker or maybe automating the actual deployment process, because that's where all the fun stuff is in technology these days, automating complex DevOps processes to kind of do the work for you. Pretty fun stuff. Okay, that's scaling up our pods with the new version. We're up to 2 now. It's going to basically scale up to 3, and then it's going to reduce the old pods down to 0. That way the app is always available. In fact, if I go into it now, I may randomly get the new version. Okay, I like books, do things, so it did properly deploy. It's not 100% deployed, but it's just about there. So yeah, so when this thing is fully up and running, especially if you have a bigger team, you could eventually get to the point where the entire complicated process of packaging code into Docker or Go containers, sticking it in a container registry, that's all automated for you. You don't have to touch a single thing once you set it up. So all you gotta do is change code, make code, commit code, and then the entire packaging and pushing process is 100% automated for you. And that's where the whole automated cloud build delivery process comes into play. It's pretty neat. That's pretty much all we had to talk about today. I do hope that you enjoyed this demonstration of Cloud Build. Again, I know it's pretty advanced. If you do want to go into more depth about how Kubernetes works, how a full continuous deployment process works, or even Google Kubernetes Engine, we have courses for all this stuff on Linux Academy that goes into much more detail than what we have to do today. Again, go ahead and mention in the comments what you want to see me do next week. Also on the comments if you're watching this on a recording. Also be sure to check out the links that I placed in the YouTube description as well for a lot of the good reference points that I have up here. Quick start locations, cloud build info, how continuous delivery works. And I also have linked the superscript that I use that if you copy and paste, it pretty much automates everything I did here, including the prerequisite setup for a Kubernetes engine cluster as well. So go ahead and dive in, kind of play around. Learning happens when you jump in and fail miserably, but eventually you get it right by continuing to plug away at it. So I definitely recommend that you jump into it as well. With that, thank you all for watching. We're actually getting done somewhat on time today. Hope to see you all here next week. I'll go ahead and stay on chat here for a couple more minutes, but otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you later. Have a wonderful day.